So I'm doing this side-by-side comparison for Sam Ehlinger in this year, where we really expect to see a new, different kind of Sam Ehlinger, but I'm not so sure that that's such a good thing because he was remarkably good last year and has gotten so much better each year. And I know that sounds strange to say, but like if you take a look at Pro Football Focus's grades for him, he goes from an abysmal subpar freshman season, 66.4 as a rating for him in a grading for him over the course of the season, to 85.7 in his sophomore season, and then 90.2 last year, which is a year where he threw for 3,663 yards and rushed for 663 yards and had 4 games where he passed for more than 300 yards, including one where he went 401 against the eventual national champion LSU Tigers. But more than that, I'm looking at him in comparison to Spencer Rattler, one, because Oklahoma and Texas are natural rivals and arch enemies, but it's really a story of experience and knowing what a guy is capable of versus tremendous upside and weapons. Now, when you look at these things on paper, Texas ought to be better, but Texas has always been in that, right? We're talking about Texas having a top 5 2019 class that definitely needs to take a step forward, just like Oklahoma's top 6 2019 class is going to be led by the best quarterback in that class. Now, Sam Ehlinger was also a high-value recruit, but not like Spencer Rattler, and he was basically tied in the same year as Tylan Wallace when they came out, and Tylan Wallace is the best wide receiver returning in the Big 12 this year, provided he's 100% from his ACL injury. But again, looking at Ehlinger, that dude was better than Tanner Morgan and graded better. And yeah, I get it. Not a whole lot of people are all in on what he's been able to do, but also he's returning a enormous group of skill position players that all know what to do now, in Malcolm Epps and Brennan Eagles and Jake Smith and Roshan Johnson and Keontae Ingram. Really, the only actual weapon that he loses is Devin Duvernay, who had over 100 catches and 1,300 yards. Colin Johnson didn't really factor in for me at all, as much as I thought he might at the beginning of the season. And then if Jordan Whittington is 100% healthy and ready to go, along with guys like Daniel Young, it's a force offensively, but you're changing the scheme. You're changing it from power spread, which is what Ehlinger was comfortable doing and what he had just figured out, to whatever it is Mike Yurcich wants to run and wants to get involved with. Now, Mike Yurcich knows how to put together offenses, but he's going to have to teach Ehlinger how to do all of this, and the dude just took a little bit too long to figure out the power spread for me. Add to that, Ehlinger was nursing a rib injury going into spring football, and this dead period, this period where we're not going to have any sporting event, probably going to help him get healthier. But against Spencer Rattler, you know what you're getting. Rattler is already getting better Heisman odds than Ehlinger, which is remarkable to think about. And then add to that, he's going to have basically some new guys at wide receiver, according to some. Now, Charleston Rambo is going to lead that wide receiver group, and Lincoln Riley said as much. We have to have him as a leader this year, whether he wants to be or not, going into this season. But you're also going to have Jaden Hazelwood, who was the top wide receiver prospect in the 2019 class, along with Theo Weiss, who was like 1B as the top wide receiver prospect in the 2019 class. Add to that, you're going to get Trajan Bridges back from suspension. If Trey Sermon is 100% healthy and still a part of the team, because I'm still running down that rumor, with the knee injury that he suffered against Iowa State to go along with Kennedy Brooks, we'll see if Marcus Major can even go, because since he got to campus, he's been hurt. See what happens with TJ Pledger as well on that front. And I hope Seth McGowan is able to go full speed, because you're going to get Ramondre Stevenson back in time for really Baylor or Army, which is going to test you along with Tennessee. So it's wild to think about, but Ehlinger is coming into a season where I expect him to be really good. Now, again, I think he's going to be really good because of all the things that return around him, but it's really going to be how much of this offense he can really pick up and how quickly they can implement it, because they have the horses to run. They have the horses to score a bunch of points, but Texas has been perennially underperforming. Meanwhile, Rattler is all substance that we are looking back from Arizona, from high school, where he set the state passing record for most passing yards in a career, and he really didn't even get to play his full senior season. But when what we did get to see of him in LSU, he was absolutely out there looking like he knew what he was doing. Saw more of him in the South Dakota game where he absolutely looked like he could spin it, but he's a natural leader, and you can see the arm talent that this kid has, throwing 70-yard bombs, throwing balls behind his back. He's terribly comfortable, and he's this mix of Baker Mayfield's charisma and Patrick Mahomes' arm, really, and ability to move around back there. I honestly have more questions about the offensive line than I do the skill players around Rattler, because whoever the first-year quarterback is, whether I'm saying it's going to be Rattler like many other people, even if it's Mordecai, you need that offensive line to be better. And I don't know that it's going to be as good as it was last year because, yeah, you're returning a bunch of starters, but if you're moving a bunch of guys around, we'll see what that means. Now, R.J. Proctor kind of nudged in the or hedged in the direction of Bray Walker having a coming out party this year, but we'll see what that even looks like and if that dude is even able to go at like the tackle positions, because Eric Swinson wasn't it for Bill Bedenbaugh, so much so that he took a guard in Proctor and made him the left tackle to finish out the season last year. Creed Humphrey is coming off a year where he didn't perform up to expectations, but he's got the ability to do that. Tyrese Robinson, Marquise Hayes, Adrian Ely, all guys that you thought could help you last year. A guy like Adrian Ely is definitely going to help you this year. I'm interested to see what growing up happens on that offensive line in front of Spencer Rattler, because I think that's going to have a lot to say about what he's able to do, because where Ehlinger is going to use his 230-pound frame to run a whole lot of power and really be a third option on any play that they have, Rattler can move, but that's not necessarily what he's looking to do. He's looking to throw the ball. Really, we're talking about two different quarterbacks here, but we are talking about an MVP caliber player in Sam Ehlinger. And when I use that, I mean that in the most literal sense of most valuable player. He is the most valuable player for Texas in the same way that Spencer will become the most valuable player for Oklahoma. Both of those guys have the win total tied directly to them. If you lose Ehlinger to this Texas offense and you have to go with Casey Thompson or even Hudson Card for that matter, I feel good about it, but not as good as I feel about with Sam Ehlinger. Whereas if you have to go with Tanner Mordecai, I'm not so sold on that. Now, Tanner is free to shut us all up on this front, and quite frankly, I would want him to. But right now, you got to go and say that OU and Texas are going to be there at the end of with the Big 12 championship game on the line, based entirely on what they return for Texas and how talented they are for Oklahoma. I'm really interested to see how things play out. But I'm just going through the numbers, and I'm astounded at how much of a jump Ehlinger has been able to make year to year. In a year where we said he had to become a better passer, again, he threw for over 400 yards against LSU. He threw for 348 against Texas Tech. He had really good games in there and really good stretches. He threw for over 300 yards against Texas Christian. That's the same defense that held Heisman Trophy runner-up Jalen Hurts to just over 100 yards passing at Owen Field. Now, we can draw a lot of conclusions, but those are the facts. And if you expect to be good, you expect your quarterback to continue to get better. And if Texas is going to try to challenge Oklahoma once again, it's got to be in a year where they're putting out a first-year starter like Rattler, because as soon as Rattler gets a year under his belt, we're all expecting Oklahoma to go for the gold in 2021, right? 2020 might end up a lot like 2019. 2021 is the one where you expect Oklahoma to be loaded for bear and go after everything you know and love if you are not an OU fan, whereas this Texas team is the one that feels built to challenge for something real. I don't know if they're going to do it, because as long as Tom Herman has been there, they made the championship game, but they haven't been able to win it. They won a Sugar Bowl. That's been the height of the Tom Herman era. And when you're looking at his record, you don't see a whole lot to be very, very excited about. We're talking about a 25-15 record to Lincoln Riley's 36-6 in the same amount of time. A lot on the line here, but I'm fascinated by these two quarterbacks because their stories are so dissimilar, but they're also so ridiculously talented. And I haven't even begun to talk about what Brock Purdy might be able to do in this 2020 season. So I wanted to do this segment because I've been thinking about it for some time, and I thought now is as good a time as any. All right, that's it for me. Deuces.